But you could argue, based on resume of what they've done for the last month, that Alabama has an argument to be the top-ranked team in the country. As we welcome in Paul Finebaum, as we do each and every day on the Matt Barrie Show, presented by Allstate. Paul, natural starting point, third Saturday in October. We play to smoke cigars. In the end, Alabama was lighting them up, and they've been lighting them up since Florida State. What an impressive win for Kalen DeBoer and the Tide. And like I said, they could argue they could be the number one team in the country.
They could. I mean, right now I'd probably still side with Ohio State. But Matt, having been down there Friday and Saturday, the vibe was off the charts. It's so different it's such a different feeling. I mean, it feels a little bit like the Saban era again, even though we know who is in charge. But Kalen DeBoer has just it's been a transformational project. And I think Alabama is in the conversation for the best team in the country. I think we can all go there. This has been a very difficult stretch, and really, as you think about it, the Vanderbilt win is getting better with the weeks as they go by. But they're just such a complete team, and when they just have a knack for making the big play at the right time, as we saw a minute ago.
Paul, you're tied to that program, and that you've covered it for years. And we questioned at the beginning of the year after the Florida State loss and really how it ended and some of the reports coming about what was going on within the facilities. We even questioned whether or not this DeBoer thing was going to work out. I mean, it was natural for people to start picking and choosing because of what Nick Saban was able to do there and dominate for 17 years. But something changed. Something clicked. Something has gone now in the way of Alabama to where we're looking around and we're saying, oh, Ryan Grubb is back with this guy, Kalen DeBoer. Ty Simpson has settled down and playing as good as football in the country. You'd be hard-pressed to find a receiver room better than theirs. I'm just curious, from someone who covers that program, what do you think clicked or changed or started working there?
I think you have to start with Ty Simpson, because he has been the glue that has kept his offense moving. And Matt, nobody wants to go back 7-8 weeks, but after they got off to a really good start against FSU, they were jarred. And every cliche you've heard too many times, and I'm not going to waste your time with them, but they just did not have the innate ability to recover, because it was Ty Simpson's first game. And they did transform after that. And DeBoer was able to take this, low-key charm where he is a genius in terms of the X's and O's, but he had not handled some of the other parts very well. And he slowly moved the knob on the volume, and he got a little bit tougher. He got a lot of buy-in. And I remember 2, 3, 4 weeks into the season, I kept hearing from my friends, and they're unbelievable. And I was telling you on Sunday, come on, they're not playing anybody. They're playing ULM and Wisconsin and a bunch of nobodies. But it didn't really matter. They came together cohesively. And I think you mentioned the name a minute ago. Ryan Grubb is the key, because he has just he's comfort food to Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer you've seen the buddy shows in college football, and it just made him more comfortable and secure, and all of a sudden they started dialing it up.
Yeah, and look, I'm glad you brought up some of the schedule, because I'm one of those that I don't like it when teams, really dominant programs, play these teams they know they're going to beat the hell out of. I don't think that does any good for anyone, including the team they beat the hell out of, because they go on to play the schedule, and the Power Five and the top echelon teams of the Power Five beat them up in those games, and sometimes they're not healthy for their schedule. But what it did do for Alabama, you hit on it. When you have such a disappointing loss in the first week of the season, like Bama did to Florida State, you need that time to regroup and figure out who you are and what we're going to be. And Alabama and Kalen DeBoer used that. Now, I remember last year, I'll never forget this. There was that game against Georgia and Jalen Milroe, and they came out and dominated. Georgia storms back. Alabama gets the win. And I came here on the Matt Barrie Show, presented by Allstate, and I said, Paul, there is closure with the Nick Saban era. He's done it. He's given people a reason to exhale. And then it kind of, I don't want to use the term fell apart, but it kind of went off the tracks a little bit. I'm not going to go so far as to say that they've moved on, but I will say that Kalen DeBoer has stabilized the tide relative to how we saw last year end and this year begin, because now with that schedule and what we would term as a pretty open SEC, I'm sitting here this morning on Sunday, October 19th, saying Alabama's the team to beat in the SEC.
Without a doubt. And I don't want to mitigate the name of Nick Saban because it's self-explanatory. But this was the first time I've been in Tuscaloosa during the football season this year. And I just didn't hear Nick Saban's name very often. I mean, everyone pays the proper amount of reverence and deference to him. But it was about Kalen DeBoer. It wasn't about Saban any longer. And I really think that is fascinating. And I saw DeBoer Saturday morning, very comfortable. He understands what the questions are. And I asked him on our show about something he had told me in July about retaining the roster. They didn't lose anybody. And he said the real residual of that was not so much having everybody back, but it's the dividends that started to pay off after the Florida State loss. It's like having money grow, and that experience finally came together. No, it didn't come together on day one, and that Florida State loss continues to look really bad. But it just doesn't matter anymore because Alabama has found its way back.
And you almost wonder, and again, this is we talk ball here on the show. You almost wonder if the roster holdover, and a lot of those guys were from the Nick Saban era. Paul, you almost wonder if DeBoer had to establish that he is the leader and alpha of the program, if some of those players didn't kind of test it a little bit. And now we know that Kalen DeBoer, he is the guy that they respect. He is the alpha. He is the leader. He's the guy in charge. Because sometimes these kids, in lack of a better term, they'll test the adult. They always do. And now, before there was no testing Nick Saban, if you tested him, you were out of there, right? Now it's DeBoer's the guy. We know that. And once you test the leader and the leader responds in the way that they should, you're seeing it all come together in front of them.
Yeah. And it's what's really interesting is just moving around Tuscaloosa over the weekend, you'd run into somebody, Matt, and I'm going to leave all names and all positions out of it. And they were going back to weekend one and that Sunday, Monday after the Florida State loss. And there were real conversations going on about what have we gotten ourselves into? And because everybody, there wasn't much buy-in for Kalen DeBoer. Now it's entirely, it's as close to 100% buy-in as I have seen at any moment during this tenure. And I give him credit because I don't know many people that could have withstood the criticism that he took after that first weekend.
You want this, you got that. Don't wait, watch them walk right past you.